I mostly read public domain books here on Glenn Reads Books to You, and they were written a long time ago, so they're usually racist, or sexist, or bigoted, but in there somewhere is a story, and that's why those stories are famous. Other times, I read works from independent authors, and they're delightfully not racist, but they might have adult language or adult situations, like, making sex. So that's your warning, but I'm sure you're grown up enough to handle it. Don't write to me complaining. Oh, God damn it, this thing doesn't work at all. I was snoring like crazy last night. Oh, God damn it. All right, fine. Go on, sit down, you little moron. I was just talking about how I bought a CPAP machine because I'm old and my body is falling apart day by day. And they made me get a CPAP machine. They said you stop breathing at night. Because it turns out I get so comfy, I don't even feel the need to inhale air. And it is, I will tell everyone, having sleep apnea is the best feeling on the face of the earth. You just lay there, totally still. Oh, God, it's like slipping into a pool of gentle, warm waters. But turns out it's bad for your heart, so now I got a CPAP machine, and this thing is ridiculous. I'm constantly struggling to exhale because it's forcing air down me, but I still snore anyways. I guess I just got a throat made of a lot of fatty meat. Well, with that, welcome to the Glenn Reads Books to You Mansions. Fun little bit where I pretend to live in a mansion and that's just recorded in my basement. This is where I read the hottest public domain books and short stories. This week, we're going to continue to read Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. Want to hear about the author? You might as well. I stole it from Wikipedia. Emily Brontë, born July 30th, 1818, and died December 19th, 1848, was an English novelist and poet who is best known for her only novel, Wuthering Heights, now considered a classic of English literature. She also published a book of poetry with her sisters, Charlotte and Anne, titled Poems by Currer, Ellis, and Acton Bell, with her own poems finding regard as poetic genius. She died of tuberculosis, most likely caused by runoff water from a nearby graveyard. Want to hear a fun fact or two that I stole from the historypress.co.uk? Sure. Emily Brontë was writing a follow-up to Wuthering Heights. Oh, if only there was a follow-up to Wuthering Heights. Well, there nearly was. A letter from Emily's publisher, Thomas Newby, of 15th February 1848, talks about Emily's next work and advises her not to rush its completion. It is not known whether the work in progress was destroyed by Emily herself or by Charlotte or after Emily's death just 10 months after Newby's letter. That says a lot. I wonder if there's information showing a direct line of his letter kind of snubbing her a little bit, and then she just fuck it and burnt the whole thing. That'd be more interesting to learn more about. Emily Brontë was a crack shot with a rifle. In the 1830s and 40s were dangerous times in Haworth, with civil unrest and Chartists on the march. Patrick Brontë kept a gun, but not trusting the wayward Branwell with it, he chose Emily to learn how to shoot. Emily loved her shooting practice, and soon became so proficient that she rarely missed the center of a target. John Greenwood told how a proud Patrick would then say, "Oh, how cleverly you have done, my dear girl. Oh, she is brave and a noble girl. She is my right hand, and nay, the very apple of my eye." Well, that's the grandfather clock telling me to shut up and go read the story, so why don't we go down to the library and continue reading this book. Well, there you go. Why don't you take a little seat here in my library's Naugahyde chair, where if you say anything or interrupt me while I'm reading, I might get mad and stop breathing. Chapter 14. As soon as I had perused this epistle, I went to the master and informed him that his sister had arrived at the Heights, and he sent me a letter expressing her sorrow for Miss Linton's situation and her ardent desire to see him, with the wish that he would transmit to her, as early as possible, some token of forgiveness by me. Forgiveness? said Linton. I have nothing to forgive her, Ellen. You may call it Wuthering Heights this afternoon if you like, but say that I am not angry, but I am sorry to have lost her, especially as I could never think that she'll be happy. Oh, it is out of the question. Am I going to see her, however? We are eternally divided, and should she really wish to oblige me, let her persuade the villain that she is married to leave the country. And you won't write her a little note, sir? I asked imploringly. No, he answered. It's needless. My communication with Heathcliff's family shall be as sparing as his with mine. It shall not exist. Well, Mr. Edgar's coldness depressed me exceedingly, and all the way from the Grange, I puzzled my brains how to put more heart into what he said. And when I repeated it, and how to soften his refusal of even a few lines to console Isabella, I dare say that she had been on the watch for me since morning. I saw her looking through the lattice as I came up the garden causeway, and I nodded to her, but she drew back, as if afraid of being observed. I entered without knocking. There was never such a dreary, dismal scene as the formerly cheerful house presented. I must confess that if I had been in the young lady's place, I would, at least, have, swept the hearth, wiped the tables with a duster, But she had already partook of the pervading spirit of neglect which encompassed her. Her pretty face was wan and listless. Her hair, uncurled. Some locks hanging lankly down, and some carelessly twisted round her head. Probably she had not touched her dress since yester evening. Hindley was not there. Mr. Heathcliff sat at the table, turning over some papers in his pocketbook. But he rose when I appeared, asked me how I did, quite friendly, and offered me a chair. He was the only thing there that seemed decent, and I thought he'd never looked better. So much had circumstances altered their positions that he would certainly have struck a stranger as born and bred gentleman, and his wife as a thorough little slattern. What does that mean? That he would strike a stranger as a born and bred gentleman, and his wife as a thorough little slattern. Well, none of that seems to make sense to me, but I've had a White Claw. Let's see what slattern means. A dirty, untidy woman. Okay, I've never heard that term before. There's always new and exciting ways to degrade women. She came forward eagerly to greet me and held out one hand to take an expected letter. I shook my head. She wouldn't understand the hint, but followed me to a sideboard, where I went to lay my bonnet and importuned me into a whisper to give her directly what I had brought. Heathcliff guessed the meaning of our maneuvers and said, if you got anything for Isabella, and no doubt you have, Nellie, give it to her. You didn't need to make a secret of it. We have no secrets between us. I have nothing, I replied, thinking it best to speak the truth at once. My master bid me tell his sister that she must not expect either a letter or a visit from him at present. He sends his love, ma'am, and his wishes for your happiness, and his pardon for the grief which you have occasioned. But he thinks after this time his household and the household here should drop intercommunication, as nothing could come of keeping it up. No, I said that. I read it, and I read it well. Mrs. Heathcliff's lip quivered slightly, and then she returned to her seat by the window. Her husband took a stand on the hearthstone near me and began to put questions concerning Catherine. I told him as much as I thought proper of her illness, and he extorted to me, by cross-examination, most of the facts connected with its origin. I blamed her, as she deserved, for bringing it all upon herself, and ended by hoping that he would follow Mr. Linton's example and avoid future interference with his family, for good or evil. And Mrs. Linton is just now recovering, I said. She'll never be like she was. But her life is spared, and if you really have a regard for her, you'll shun crossing her this way again. Nay, you'll move out of this country entirely, and that you may not regret it. And I'll inform you, Catherine Linton is different now from your old friend Catherine Earnshaw. And as that young lady is different from me, her appearance has changed greatly. Her character more so, and the person who's compelled of necessity to be your companion will only sustain his affection hereafter by the remembrance of what she once was, and by common humanity and sense of duty. "Oh, that's quite impossible," remarked Heathcliff, forcing himself to seem calm. "Oh, quite impossible that your master should have nothing but common humanity and a sense of duty to fall back upon. Do you imagine that I shall leave Catherine to his, in italics, duty and in italics, humanity? Can you compare my feelings respecting Catherine to his? Before you leave this house, I must exact a promise from you that you'll get me an interview with her. Consent or refuse, and I will see her. What do you say?" "I say, Mr. Heathcliff," I replied, "you must not, you never shall, through my means. Another encounter between you and the master would kill her altogether. With your aid, that may be avoided," he continued, "and should there be danger of such an extent, should he be the cause of adding a single trouble more of existence, why, I think I should be justified in going to extremes. I wish you had sincerity enough to tell me whether Catherine would suffer greatly from his loss, the fear that she would restrain me, and that you should see the distinction between our feelings. Had he been in my place, and I in his, though I hated him with a hatred that turned my life to gall, I never would have raised a hand against him. You may look incredulous if you please. I never would have banished him from her society as long as she desired this. The moment her regard ceased, I would have torn his heart out, and drank his blood. Oh, but till then, if you don't believe me, you don't know me. Till then, I would have died by inches before I touched a single hair on his head." "And yet," I interrupted, "you have no scruples in completely ruining all hopes of her perfect restoration by thrusting yourself into her remembrance now when she has nearly forgotten you and involving her in a new tumult of discord and distress." "Well, you suppose she has nearly forgotten me," he said. Oh, Nellie, you have seen that she has not. And you know well as I do that for every thought she spends on Linton, she spends 1,000 on me. Oh, in a most miserable period of my life, I had a notion of the kind. It haunted me on my return to the neighborhood last summer. But only her assurance could make me admit the horrible idea again, and then Linton would be nothing, nor Hindley. For all the dreams I have ever dreamt, for 2 words would comprehend my future: death, death, and hell. Existence after losing her would be hell. And yet I was a fool to fancy for a moment that she valued Edgar Linton's attachment more than mine. Oh, if she loved with all the powers in his puny being, he could love as much in 80 years as I could in a day. And Catherine is a deep heart as I have. Oh, the sea could be as readily contained in that horse trough. Horse trough, as her whole affection be monopolized by him. Tush! He is scarcely a degree dearer to her than a dog, or her horse. It is not in him to be loved like me. How can she love in him what he has not? Catherine and Edgar are fond of each other, as any 2 people can be," cried Isabella with sudden vivacity. "No one has a right to talk in that manner, and I won't hear my brother depreciated in silence." "Your brother is a wondrous fond of you, too, isn't he?" observed Heathcliff, scornfully. "He turns you adrift on the world with surprising alacrity." "He's not aware of what I suffer," she replied. "I didn't tell him that." "Well, you've been telling him something, then. You've written, haven't you? To say that I was married, I did write. You saw the note." "Nothing since, no. My young lady, it is looking sadly the worse for her change of condition," I remarked. "Somebody's love comes short in her case, obviously whose I may guess, but perhaps I shouldn't say." "Well, I should have guessed it was her own," said Heathcliff. "She degenerates to a mere slut. Oh, my lord. And she is tired of trying to please me, and uncommonly early. You've hardly credited, but the very morrow of our wedding, she was weeping to go home. Oh, however, she'll suit the house so much better for not being over nice, and I'll take care she does not disgrace me by rambling abroad." "Well, sir," returned I I hope you'll consider that Miss Heathcliff is accustomed to be looked after and waited on, and that she has been brought up like an only daughter, whom everyone is ready to serve. You must let her have a maid to keep things tidy about her, and you must treat her kindly. Whatever be your notion of Mr. Edgar, you cannot doubt that she has the capacity for strong attachments, or she wouldn't have abandoned the elegancies, the comforts, the friends of her former home, to fix contentedly in such a wilderness with you. She abandoned them under a delusion, he answered, picturing in me a hero of romance and expecting unlimited indulgences from my chivalrous devotion. And I can hardly regard her in the light of rational creature. Oh, so obstinately she has persisted in forming a fabulous notion of my character and acting on the false impression she cherished. But at last, I think she begins to know me. I don't perceive the silly smiles and grimaces that provoked me at first, man. And the senseless incompatibility, I can say it, of discerning that I was in earnest when I gave her my opinion of her infatuation and herself. It was a marvelous effort, perspicacity. I don't know if it's just me and my White Claw, or if it's just this chapter is full of big words no one ever uses, to discover that I did not love her. I believed at one time no lessons could teach her that, and yet it is poorly learned. For this morning she announced, as a piece of appalling intelligence, that I had actually succeeded in making her hate me. A positive labor, of Hercules. I assure you, if it be achieved, I have cause to return thanks. Can I trust your assertion, Isabella? Are you sure you hate me? And if I let you alone for half a day, won't you come sighing and wheedling to me again? I dare say she would rather I had seemed all tenderness before you. What you doing down here, turd? You gonna pee down here? Is Theo home?
I don't know.
You just choose to pee in the basement now. You prefer to urinate in the basement.
I want to look you in the eyes while I do it.
You can't. There's a big stairway in the way.
Oh, no, I bend.
Go on. Make eye contact with me, pisser.
Mine comes out the back.
Wow, your head really does pop out the side there, doesn't it? Wow, just eyeballing me while you piss. You're just squirting all inside that tub right now, aren't you? Look at you go.
What part are you at?
Christ. Isabella's come back after marrying Heathcliff, and Heathcliff's been a giant turd to her, and she hates him. So now Nellie has gone to talk to him, to tell Isabella, you can't come over to the house. Your brother doesn't want to see you.
Yeah.
And then Heathcliff's like, yeah, this... Actually called her a slut.
Yeah.
He actually called her a slut.
Has the dog thing happened already? I think so.
Oh, no. What? No.
Okay, never mind.
Dog thing? You mean the narrator of the book that's walking around with a lantern and a dog attacks him? Or that's way in the beginning. All right, don't give it away. That's what you get when you got a wife that's already read the book I'm reading. She's got to snub me and let me know she knows important things that I don't know yet. While peeing, it wounds her vanity to have the truth exposed, but I don't care who knows that the passion was wholly on one side, and I never told her a lie about it. She can't accuse me of showing one bit of deceitful softness. And the first thing she saw me do, I'm coming out of the Grange. I'm going to figure this one out someday, was to hang up her little dog. And then when she pleaded for it, the first words I uttered were a wish that I had the hanging of every being belonging to her, except one. Possibly she took that exception for herself, but no brutality disgusted her. I suppose she has an innate admiration of it. If only for her precious person were secure from injury. Now that it was not the depth of absurdity or genuine idiocracy, the pitiful, slavish, mean-minded Brock, to dream that I... What's a Brock? We're looking it up. It may refer to people, says Wikipedia. That wasn't helpful. To dream that I could love her? Oh, tell your master, Nellie, that I never, in all my life, met with such an abject thing as she is. Oh, burp. She even disgraces the name of Linton. And I've sometimes relented the pure lack of invitation. innovation in my experiments of what she could endure. Oh, it still creeps shamefully, cringing back, and tell him also to set his fraternal and magisterial heart at ease, and that I keep strictly within the limits of the law. I have avoided, up to this period, giving her the slightest right to claim a separation. And, what's more, she'd thank nobody for dividing us. If she desired to go, she might. The nuisance of her presence outweighs the gratification to be derived from tormenting her. Oh, Mr. Heathcliff, said I, this is the talk of a madman. Your wife, most likely, is convinced that you are mad, and for that reason she has borne with you hitherto. But now that you say she may go, she'll doubtless avail herself on the permission. You are not so bewitched, ma'am, as you are to remain with him of your own accord. Take care, Ellen, answered Isabella, her eyes sparkling irefully. There is no misdoubting by their expression the full success of her partner's endeavors to make himself detested. Don't put faith in a single word he speaks. He's a lying fiend, a monster, not a human being. But I've been told I might leave him before, and I've made the attempt, but I dare not repeat it. Oh, only Ellen, promise you not mention a syllable of this infamous conversation to my brother or Catherine. Whatever he may pretend, he wishes to provoke Edgar to desperation. He says that he's married to me on purpose, to obtain power over him, and he shan't obtain it. I'll die first. I just hope, I pray that he may forget his diabolical prudence and kill me. Yeah, the single pleasure I can imagine is to die. Or to see him dead. There, that'll do for the present, said Heathcliff. If you're called upon in the court of law, you remember her language, Nellie, and take a good look at that countenance. Oh, she's near the point which would suit me. No, you're not fit to be your own guardian, Isabella, now, and I fear, being your legal protector, I must retain you in my custody. However distasteful the obligation may be, go upstairs, and I have something to say to Ellen Dean in private. That's not the way. Upstairs, I tell you. Why, this is a road upstairs, child. He seized and thrust her from the room and returned muttering, I have no pity, I have no pity. And the more he worms and writhes, the more I yearn to crush out their entrails. And it is a moral teething, and I grind with greater energy in proportion to the increase of pain. Do you understand what the word pity means? I said, hastening to resume my bonnet. Do you ever feel a touch of it in your life? Put that down, he interrupted, perceiving my intention to depart. No, you're not going yet. Come here now, Nellie. I must either persuade or compel you to aid me in fulfilling my determination to see Catherine, and that without delay. I swear that I mediate no harm. I don't desire to cause any disturbance or to exasperate my insulted Mr. Linden. I only wish to hear from herself how she is, and why she's been ill, and to ask if anything that I could do would be of use to her. Last night, I was in the Grange garden, 6 hours. Oh, and I'll return there. Tonight! And every night, and I'll haunt the place, and every day, until I find an opportunity of entering. If Edgar Linton meets me, I shall not hesitate to knock him down, and give him enough to ensure his quiescence while I stay. And if the servants oppose me, I shall threaten them off with these pistols. Oh, wouldn't it be better to prevent my coming in contact with them or their master? Oh, and you could do it easily. I'd warn you when I came, and then you might let me in unobserved as soon as she was, alone, and watch till I departed, your conscience quite calm. You would be, hindering mischief. Well, I protested against playing the treacherous part of my employer's house, and besides, I urged the cruelty and selfishness of his destroying Mrs. Linton's tranquility for his satisfaction, and the commonest occurrence startles her painfully, I said. She's all nerves, and she could bear the surprise. I'm positive. I don't persist, sir, or else I shall be obliged to inform my master of your designs, and he'll make measures to secure his house and its inmates for any such unwarrantable intrusions. Well, in that case, I'll take measures to secure you, woman. he exclaimed. You shall not leave Wuthering Heights till tomorrow morning. Oh, it's a foolish story to assert that Catherine could not bear to see me, and as to surprising her, I don't desire it. You must prepare her, and ask her if I may come. Oh, you may say she never mentions my name, that I have never mentioned to her. To whom should she mention me if I'm forbidden the topic in the house? She thinks that you're all spies for her husband. Oh, no doubt she'll be in hell among you. I guess by her silence as much as anything. What she feels. You may say she's often restless and anxious looking. And is that proof of tranquility, eh? Oh, you talk of her mind being unsettled. Oh, how the devil could it be otherwise in her frightful isolation? What an insipid, paltry creature attending her from duty and humanity, from pity and charity. Oh, he might as well plant an oak in a flower pot and expect it to thrive, as imagine that he can restore her to vigor in the soil of the shadow cares. Oh, let us all settle it at once. Will you stay here, and am I to fight my way to Catherine over Linton and his footman? Or will you be my friend? And will you have been hitherto and do what I request? Oh, decide, because there is no reason for my lingering another minute if you persist in your stubborn, ill nature. Well, Mr. Lockwood, I argued and complained and flatly refused him 50 times, but in long run he forced me to an agreement. I engaged to carry a letter from him to my mistress, and should she consent, I promised to let him have intelligence of Linton's next absence from home. When he might come, when he might get as able, and I wouldn't be there, my fellow servants would equally be out of the way. Was it right or wrong? I fear it was wrong, though expedient. I thought I prevented another explosion of my compliance, and I thought, too, it might create a favorable crisis in Catherine's mental illness, and that I remembered Mr. Edgar's stern rebuke of my carrying tales. So, and I tried to smooth away all disquietude on the subject by affirming with frequent iteration that the betrayal of trust, if it merited so harsh an appellation, should be the last. Notwithstanding, that's a really long word. I've never seen notwithstanding in print before. It is the word notwithstanding, all one word, no spaces. I've never experienced that. Is that weird? Does that make me ignorant? My journey homeward was sadder than my journey thither. And I've never seen thither in a book before, too. So this is quite an experience for me. And many misgivings I had, I could prevail upon myself to put the missive into Mr. Linton's hand. But here is Kenneth. I'll go down and tell him how much better you are. My history is dree in italics, as we say, and will serve while away another morning. Dree and dreary, I reflected, as the good woman descended to receive the doctor, and not exactly of the kind which I should have chosen to amuse me. Oh, but never mind! Exclamation point. I extract wholesome medicines from Mrs. Dean's bitter herbs. And firstly, let me be aware of the fascination that lurks in Catherine and Heathcliff's brilliant eyes. I should be in curious taking if I surrendered my heart to that young person. And the daughter turned out a second edition of the mother. Well, seems as good a place as any to take a little break and get out of this stuffy library. Why don't we head down to someplace else where we can clear our sinuses, like the basement with the naked light bulbs and the folding chairs, where I can play guitar to you softly as I let you know about the latest upcoming Penguin Random House books. Oh, there you are. Why don't you take a little seat there in that folding chair underneath that naked light bulb while I stand underneath this naked light bulb and play this guitar for you. You've noticed that the dripping water now has a bunch of glasses underneath it. That's because with my CPAP, I found out I'm supposed to use distilled water. I'm not going to Target to spend like $5 on distilled water. It turns out the purest form of distilled water can be found here in my basement from this drip that we've all been dealing with for the last God knows how many months. So just know that this beautiful collection of fine crystalware that I have going on is going to be used to fill up my CPAP so I can sleep like a king tonight. Why don't I tell you about the latest upcoming books from Penguin Random House? This one being My Passion for Design by Barbara Streisand. You can find it at its hardcover. It's a hardcover book, because, of course, Barbara's never going to do a paperback of her passion for design. For nearly 6 decades, Barbara Streisand has been one of the singular figures in American entertainment. From the cabaret, to the Broadway stage, from television and film stardom to her acclaimed work as a director, from the recording studio to the concert hall, she has demonstrated the extraordinary voice that launched her career. It was only one of her remarkable gifts. Now, in her first book, actually, there's another book. It just says right next to it. It says, My Name is Barbara by Barbara Streisand. This isn't her first book. In her first book, Barbara Streisand reveals another aspect of her talent, the taste and style that have inspired her beautiful homes and collections. My Passion for Design is her account of the creation and construction of her newest home. Are you freaking kidding me? I swear to God, rich people, as soon as you get a lot of money, you give that person with a lot of money like a year or two, and they just stop being a normal human being, and they suddenly think that everyone cares about what's ever going on in their life. So now we get to read a book about her homes, the creation, construction of her newest home, the dream refuge she has always longed for since the days when she shared a small Brooklyn apartment with her mother, brother, and grandparents, and a culmination and reflection of her love of American architecture and design from the 18th and 20th centuries, whether she is seeking an elusive shade of blue, or the paneling of her federal lounge. Oh my God, this is not a human being. Why would anyone buy this book? Tracking down a contemporary woodworker who has been able to recreate the exquisite green and green style, or choosing, again, this is not how people live. Or choosing the roses to harmonize with both the interior and exterior of a given room. Great. When do I just get to buy flowers to decorate a room? Like, these flowers work perfectly with my wallpaper. This is not how people live. Barbara's perseverance and attention to detail are remarkable, and remarkably engaging. She is a wonderfully witty storyteller, as well as a knowledgeable and charming guide to how she decorates her home. I hate this. My Passion for Design contains not only Barbara's own photographs of the room she's decorated, that's got to be worth a lot of money, and the furniture and art she's collected, but the ravishing gardens that she has planted, probably she hired someone to, on her land in the California coast. But memories of her childhood, the insights into the development of her own sense of style. I love how they call back to the way she grew up poor with a bunch of people in her tiny apartment, just to say it influences her new style. The millions of fans who have cherished her voice as a singer will find that she has equally inimitable, compelling voice as a writer. Oh, she wrote this herself. Great for us. Here is a rare and intimate private tour of the world of one of our most beloved stars, which will be welcomed by her fans and lovers of the great achievements of American design. Kill me. My Passion for Design by Barbara Streisand. It's $80 in hardcover. Of course, that's why it's hardcover. Oh my God, it's coming out February 6th. You can get it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books, Bookshop.org, Hudson Booksellers, Powell's, Target, and you can't fool yourself. Anyone that goes to Walmart is not going to spend $80 on a book Barbara Streisand wrote about how cool her home is. There's no way. But I guess you can wander around looking for cheap cheese puffs, like a giant tub of cheese puffs, at Walmart. What the hell did you just knocked over all my distilled water from my CPAP machine. What the hell's wrong with you? Oh my God, that took like a week. I spent a week preparing to use my CPAP machine, and then you just spilled all my homegrown distilled water. Well, great. Why don't you get back upstairs while I mop this up, and I guess I'm going to be putting dirty water in my CPAP machine now, thanks to you, idiot. I'll see you upstairs. Can't believe my feet are so wet. Oh, well, there you are. Look, you made yourself all snuggly in my Naugahyde chair here in the library. Meanwhile, I had to walk all the way up here in my wet tube socks. Thanks to you. I'm going to be breathing in nothing but dead bugs and pubic hair all night long because I'm going to pour that stuff into my CPAP. I hate when you come over. All right, let's get started. Chapter 15. Another week over, and I'm so many days near health and spring. I've now heard all my neighbors' history at different settings. As the housekeeper could spare time for more important occupations, I'll continue it in her own words, only a little condensed. She is, on a whole, a very fair narrator, and I don't think I could approve her style. In the evening, she said, the evening of my visit to the Heights, I knew, as well as I saw him, that Mr. Heathcliff was about the place, and I shunned going out, because I still carried this letter in my pocket, and I didn't want to be threatened or teased anymore. I had made up my mind not to give it to my master went somewhere, and as I could not guess how its receipt would affect Catherine, the consequence was that it did not reach her before the lapse of 3 days. The 4th was Sunday, and I brought it into her room after the family were gone to church. Oh, there was a manservant left to keep the house with me. Burp, and we generally made a practice of locking the doors during the hours of service. But on that occasion, the weather was so warm and pleasant, and I set them wide open, and to fulfill my engagement, as I knew who would be coming. Burp, I told my companion that the mistress wished very much for me oranges. Some oranges. And he must run over to the village and get a few, to be paid on the morrow. He departed, and I went upstairs. Mrs. Linton sat on a loose white dress with a light shawl over her shoulders, and in the recess of the open window, as usual, her thick, long hair had been partially removed at the beginning of her illness, and now she wore it simply combed in its natural tresses over her temples and her neck. Her appearance was altered, as I had told Heathcliff, but when she was calm, there seemed unearthly beauty in the change. The flash of her eyes had been succeeded by a dreamy and melancholy softness. They no longer gave the impression of looking at the objects around her. They appears to always gaze beyond, and far beyond. You would have said, out of this world? Yeah. Oh, and then the paleness of her face, its haggard aspect having vanished as she recovered flesh, the peculiar expression arising from her mental state, though painfully suggestive of the causes, added to the touching interest which she awakened, and invariable to me, I know, and to any person who saw her, I should think, refuted more tangible proofs of convalescence, and stamped her as one doomed to decay. A book lay spread on the sill before her, as the scarcely perceptible wind fluttered its leaves at intervals. I believe Linton had laid it there, for she never endeavored to divert herself with reading or occupation of any kind, as she would spend many an hour in trying to entice her attention to some subject which had formerly been her amusement. She was conscious of his aim, and in her better moods endured his efforts placidly, only showing their uselessness by now and then suppressing a wearied sigh, and checking him at last with the saddest of smiles and kisses. At other times she would turn petulant away and hide her face in her hands, or even push him off angrily, and then he took care to let her alone, for he was certain of doing no good. Gibbet chapel bells were still ringing, and the full, mellow flow of the back of the valley came soothingly on the ear. Oh, it was a sweet substitute for the yet absent murmur of the summer foliage, which drowned that music about the Grange when the trees were in leaf. At Wuthering Heights, it was always sounded on quiet days following a great thaw or a season of steady rain. And of Wuthering Heights, Catherine was thinking as she listened. That is, if she thought or listened at all. But she had a vague, distant look I mentioned before, which expressed no recognition of material things either by ear or eye. There's a letter for you, Miss Linton, I said, gently inserting it to one hand that rested on her knee. You must read it immediately, because it wants an answer. Shall I break the seal? Yes, she answered, without altering the direction of her eyes. I opened it, and it was very short. Now, I continued, read it. She drew her hand away and let it fall. I replaced it in her lap, and she stood waiting till it should please her to glance down. But that moment was so long delayed that I at last resumed. Must I read it, ma'am? Is it from Heathcliff? There was a start and a troubled gleam of recollection and a struggle to arrange her ideas. She lifted the letter and seemed to peruse it. And then she came to the signature and sighed. Yet still I found she had not gathered its import. For upon my desiring to hear her reply, she merely pointed to the name and gazed at me with mournful and questioning eagerness. Well, he wishes to see you, said I, guessing her need of an interpreter. He's in the garden by this time, and impatient to know what answer I shall bring. As I spoke, I observed a large dog lying in the sunny grass. Oh, is this thing that my wife just mentioned already happening? Beneath, raise its ears as if about to bark, and then, smoothing them back, announce, by a wag of the tail, that someone approached whom it did not consider a stranger. Miss Linton bent forward and listened breathlessly. The minute after a step traversed the hall, and the open house was too tempting for Heathcliff to resist walking in, most likely he supposed that I was inclined to shirk my promise, and so resolved to trust to his own audacity. With straining eagerness, Catherine gazed towards the entrance of the chamber. Oh, he did not hit the right room directly. She motioned me to admit him, but he found it out ere I could reach the door, and in a stride or two was at her side, and had grasped her in his arms. He neither spoke nor loosed his hold for some, 5 minutes, during which period he bestowed more kisses than ever he gave in his life before, I dare say, but then my mistress had kissed him first. It's like the Han Solo thing with the Guido. And then I plainly saw that he could hardly bear, for downright agony, to look into her face. The same conviction had stricken him as me. From the instant he beheld her that there was no prospect of ultimate recovery there, she was fated, sure to die. Oh, Kathy! Oh, my life! Oh, how can I bear it, was his first sentence he uttered in a tone that did not seek to disguise his despair, and now he stared at her so earnestly that I thought that the very intensity of his gaze would bring tears into his eyes. But they burned with anguish, and they did not melt. What now? Said Catherine, leaning back and returning his look with a suddenly clouded brow. Her humor was a mere vein for constantly varying caprices. You and Edgar have broken my heart, Heathcliff, and you both came to bewail the deed to me as if you were the people to be pitied, and I shall not pity you, not I. Oh, you have killed me, and thriving on it, I think. How strong you are. Oh, how many years do you mean to live after I'm gone? Heathcliff had knelt on one knee to embrace her. He attempted to rise, but seized his hair and kept him down. Oh, I wish I could hold you, she continued bitterly, until we were both dead, huh? Oh, I shouldn't care what you suffered. I care nothing for your sufferings. Why shouldn't you suffer? I do. Will you forgive me? Will you be happy when I'm in the earth? Will you say 20 years hence that that's the grave of Catherine Earnshaw? I loved her so long ago and was wretched to lose her, but it's the past. I loved many others since my children are dearer to me than she was, and at death I shall not rejoice that I am going to her. Oh, I shall be sorry that I must leave them. Will you say so, Heathcliff? Jesus, that's such a... just pulling the strings, just being a jerk. Don't torture me till I'm as mad as yourself, cried he, wrenching his head free and grinding his teeth. The tool... to cool spectator, made a strange and fearful picture. Well might Catherine deem that heaven would be a land of exile to her, unless with her mortal body she cast away her mortal character too. Her present countenance had a wild vindictiveness in its white cheek and a bloodless lip and scintillating eye, and she retained in her closed fingers a portion of the locks that she'd been grasping. Jesus, she ripped the hair out, as if as to her companion, while raising himself with one hand, had taken her arm with the other, and so inadequate was his stock of gentleness to the requirements of a condition that on his letting go I saw 4 distinct impressions that left blue in the color of the skin. Are you possessed with a devil? He pursued savagely, to talk in that manner to me when you're dying? Do you reflect that all those words will be branded in my memory and eating deeper eternally after you've left me? Do you know you lie to say I have killed you? And, Catherine, you know that I could as soon forget you as my existence? It is not sufficient for the infernal selfishness that while you are at peace, I shall writhe in the torments of hell. Oh, I should not be at peace, moaned Catherine, recalled to a sense of physical weakening by the violent and unequal throbbing of her heart, which beat visibly and audibly under the excess of agitation. She said nothing further till the paroxysm was over, and she continued more kindly, I'm not wishing you greater torment than I have, Heathcliff. I only wish us never to be parted. And should a word of mine distress you hereafter, I think I feel the same distress underground. For my own sake, forgive me. Come here. Kneel down again. You never harmed me in your life. Nay, if you nurse anger, that will be worse to remember than my harsh words. Oh, won't you come here again? Do. Heathcliff went back to the chair and leant over, but not so far as to let her see his face, which was livid with emotion. He bent round to look at him, but he still would not permit it, turning abruptly, and he walked to the fireplace where he stood, silent, but his back towards us. Miss Linton's glance followed him suspiciously. Every movement woke a new sentiment in her. After a pause and prolonged gaze, she resumed, addressing me in accents of indignant disappointment. You see, Nellie, you would not relent a moment to keep me out of the grave. That is how I'm loved. Well, never mind. That is not my Heathcliff. I shall love mine yet, and take him with me. He's in my soul. And, she said musingly, the thing that irks me most about this shattered prison, after all, I'm tired of being enclosed here. I'm wearying to escape into that glorious world, and to be always there, not seeing it dimly through tears and yearning through the walls of an aching heart, but really with it and in it. Nellie, you think you're better and more fortunate than I. In full health and strength, you are sorry for me. And very soon that will be altered, and I shall be sorry for you. I shall be incomparably beyond and above you all. Oh, I wonder. He won't be near me. She went on to herself, and I thought he wished it. Heathcliff, dear, you should be sullen now. Do come to me, Heathcliff. In her eagerness, she rose up and supported herself on the arm of her chair. And that earnest appeal, he turned to her, looking absolutely desperate, his eyes wide, and wet, and at last flashed fiercely on her. His breast heaved convulsively. An instant they held asunder, and now they met, I hardly saw, but Catherine made a spring, and he caught her, and they were locked in an embrace from which I thought my mistress would never be released alive. In fact, to my eyes, she seemed strictly insensible. He flung himself into the nearest seat, and on my approaching, hurriedly to ascertain if she had fainted, he gnashed at me and foamed like a mad dog. He gathered her to him with greedy jealousy. I did not feel as if I were in the company of a creature of my own species. It appeared that he would not understand, though I spoke to him. So I stood off and held my tongue in great perplexity. A movement of Catherine's relieved me a little presently. She put up her hand to clasp his neck and bring a cheek to his as he held her, and while he, in return, covering her with frantic caresses, that was a weird way of trying to read that, said wildly, You teach me now how cruel you have been. Cruel and false. Why did you despise me? Why did you betray your own heart, Cathy? I have not one word of comfort. You deserve this. You have killed yourself. Yes, you may kiss me and cry and wring out my kisses and my tears. They'll blight you. They'll damn you. You loved me. Then what right had you to leave me? What right? Answer me. For the poor fancy you felt in Linton. Because misery and degradation and death and nothing that God or Satan could inflict would have parted us. You, of your own will, did it. I have not broken your heart. You have broken it, and in breaking it, you've broken mine. And so much the worse for me that I am strong. Do I want to live? What kind of living will it be when you, oh God, would you like to live with your soul in the grave? Well, let me alone, said Catherine. If I've done wrong, I'm dying for it. Is it enough? You left me too, but I won't upbraid you. I forgive you. Forgive me. Oh, it's hard to forgive. And to look at those eyes and to feel those wasted hands, he answered. Kiss me again. Oh, and don't let me see your eyes. I forgive you for what you've done. I love my murderer, but yours, how can I? They were silent. Their faces hit against each other and washed by each other's tears. At last, I suppose, the weeping was on both sides, and it seemed Heathcliff could weep on a great occasion like this. I grew very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, I would too, watching this entire bizarre as hell scene happening right in front of you. Why didn't Nellie just slip out while they were yelling at each other and stuff? For the afternoon wore fast away, and the man whom I had sent off returned to his errand, and I could distinguish by the shine of the western sun up the valley a concourse thickening outside Gimmerton Chapel porch. Service is over, I announced. My master will be here in half an hour. Heathcliff groaned a curse and strained Catherine closer, and she never moved. Ere long, I perceived a group of the servants passing up the road toward the kitchen wing. Mr. Linton was not far behind. He opened the gate himself and sauntered slowly up, probably enjoying the lovely afternoon that breathed as soft as the summer. Now here is, I'll say that again. Now here he is, I exclaimed. For heaven's sake, hurry down. You'll not meet anyone on the front stairs. Do be quick and stay among the trees until he's fairly in. I must go, Cathy, said Heathcliff, seeking to extricate himself from the companion's arms. But if I live, I will see you again before you are asleep. Burp, I won't stray 5 yards from your window. No, you must not go, she answered, holding him as firmly as her strength allowed. You shall not, I tell you. For 1 hour, he pleaded earnestly. Not for 1 minute, she replied. I must. Linton will be up here immediately, persisted the alarmed intruder. He would have risen and unfixed her fingers by the act and clung fast, grasping. There was a mad resolution in her face. No, she shrieked. Oh, don't go. This is the last time. Edgar will not hurt us, Heathcliff. I shall die. God, this is dramatic. Damn the fool, there he is, cried Heathcliff, sinking back into his seat. Hush, my darling, hush, Catherine. I'll stay. If he shot me so, I'd expire with a blessing on my lips. There they were fast again. I heard my master mounting the stairs. The cold sweat ran from my forehead, and I was horrified. You gotta listen to her ravings, I said passionately. She does not know what she says. She'll ruin her, because she has not the wit to help herself. Get up! You can be free instantly. This is the most diabolical deed you've ever did. We're all alone for master, mistress, and servant. I wrung my hands and cried out, and Mr. Linton hastened his step at the noise. In the midst of my agitation, I was sincerely glad to observe that Catherine's arms had fallen relaxed and her head hung down. She's fainted, or dead, I thought. So much for the better. Far better that she should be dead than lingering a burden and a misery maker all about her. Edgar sprang to his unbidden guest, blanched with astonishment and rage. What he meant to do I cannot tell. However, the other stopped all demonstrations at once by placing the lifeless-looking form in his arms. Look there, he said, unless you be a fiend, help her first. Then you shall speak to me. He walked into the parlor and sat down. Mr. Linton summoned me, and with great difficulty, and after resorting to many means, we managed to restore her to sensation. But she was all bewildered, and sighed, and moaned, and knew nobody. Edgar, in his anxiety for her, forgot her heated friend. I did not. I went to the earliest opportunity and besought him to depart. Affirming that Catherine was better, he should hear from me in the morning how she passed that night. I shall not refuse to go outdoors, he answered, but I shall stay in the garden. And, Nellie, mind you, keep your word tomorrow. I shall be under those larch trees. Mind, or I pay another visit, whether Linton be in or not. He sent a rapid glance through the half-open door of the chamber, and, ascertaining that what I stated was apparently true, delivered the house of his luckless presence. Well, why don't we take my wet socks and go to the smoking room where we can have a cigarette and we can go over what we just read. Now, there you are. You're all snuggled up here in my smoking room. And I see you've grabbed yourself a Camel cigarette, and you seem to be enjoying it. That's right. As we all know, my wife put parakeets in the smoking room. She thought it'd be cute. We got about 7 of them, and they're all loud all the time. And putting parakeets in a room with a bunch of tobacco smoke everywhere is not the brightest idea in the world. They're all going to get tiny lung cancers. Who knows? Maybe these parakeets will also have CPAP machines strapped to their beaks. And yes, my socks are still wet. You didn't ask. I'm just going to tell you anyways. You knocked over all my beautiful homegrown distilled water from my CPAP machine, and then you just took off like an idiot, and you didn't help clean up or nothing. And thanks to you, I'm going to be pouring dirty water into my CPAP. That's going to be full of pubic hair, which is going to go straight into my lungs, and also a colony of silverfish, which are going to get reignited from all that warm, fleshy walls of my lungs. What do we learn? These chapters show the decline of both Heathcliff and Catherine. Though standoffish initially, Heathcliff's resentment towards Catherine goes through a transformation when he sees her seriously ill. His love for her is so intense that when she marries Edgar, he takes it real personally instead of actually looking at it for what it is, which is just, a white woman wanting to stay rich. And then he gets real upset about it, holds it against her, but demands her love anyways. So he goes through a transformation when he sees her that ill, where he's still angry. So at first he's verbally abusive and lashes out at her. And then after she lashes out back at him again, because she can always go head to head with this guy, and says a lot of things like, you're going to love it when I'm dead, aren't you? You're going to have your own kids, and you're going to be so thankful I'm not on this earth anymore. So that makes him meek when she does that. And she blames him and her own husband for her death, which has got to be something good to have someone say to you right before they die, and asking how happy he'd be when she's dead and buried. So this breaks him, but it doesn't stop his resentment towards Edgar. Can't stay angry at her. They kind of make up in a way where he's like, hey, take it back, don't say that. And she's like, oh, I love you so much. Are you going to miss me? And she's just dead set, I'm going to die. And then he's all like, oh, don't be mad. And then, but he's like, well, I still hate your husband, and blames the husband. Like, your husband's the one that killed you. It's a lot of fun. It's a great chapter. The one thing to notice out of all of this is we got a constant theme of duality going on. You got everything in twos. You got two manners that the people are bouncing back and forth between. You got two lovers. We only got one bog. Too bad there's not two bogs. Two lovers for Catherine and two lovers for Heathcliff, even though he doesn't care about his wife, Isabella. Heathcliff's love-hate for Catherine is kind of a duality, too. And I guess later the story I found out focuses more on the children, Kathy, Linton, and Hareton. I can say it. So the book itself is kind of split into two halves. So, think about that. Well, with that, I'm going to wring out my socks, wring them out into my CPAP machine, while hopefully you show yourself out and close the door behind you, because you caused a huge problem tonight, and if you ruin my sleep, oh my God, I'm never going to forgive you. Well, with that, thanks for listening, and I will see you next week. Well, it appears you found me in the part of the podcast I hate the most, where I tell you all about the places on the internet where you can find me. You can tell I hate this because of the sound effects making it sound like a stormy night in the drawing room of the damned. Now, there's that. Are you cool? I like cool people. It's the reason why I got involved in this business to begin with, just to meet cool people, not losers. So if you're cool, feel free to go over to my website, nuzzlehouse.com, which just points you to my link tree. Everything's on the link tree. Just go to the link tree if you want to see where I am. And of course, Linktree has the dumbest URL in the world. linktr.ee/nuzzlehouse. It's the dumbest thing. If you go to nuzzlehouse.com, it's just going to reroute you over there after giving you some weird error about it not being secure. I hate it. I hate the internet. But if you go there, you get to hear some of the other stuff that I and my wife work on, like the Radio Mystery Theater show, where we try to recreate the same show that used to be on in the 70s, but they don't make any episodes anymore. So we make our own, and we just steal all their commercials. And also Gestating the Curious Mind. We made a Christmas album. If you go to our link tree, you can see that we made a Christmas album. It's the first thing we did after getting married, which I think everyone should do when they get married, is start talking about the Christmas album they're going to make. And we're working on a new show where we give relationship advice by reading a paranormal smut. And since I think you might be cool, you can always just email me directly. glenn.nuzzles@gmail.com. But don't email if you're a nerdling or a dork. Now, back to business. Can't believe I drank all of them already. There's gotta be one left.